So somehow it's August now, which means that this month we'll see introduced Season 5 across Vanguard and Warzone, which may seem like jumping the gun here a bit because we just saw the launch of Season 4 Reloaded, but with what is very likely the final season of what not is only Vanguard's year of support, but also the very last season of content for Warzone 1's experience, we're upcoming on the end of an era ahead of the launch of Modern Warfare 2, and then shortly to follow, Warzone 2. So what better way to end things than to maybe come full circle and bring back Warzone to where it all began, in Verdansk. That's been the rallying cry for tons and tons of players lately, but what's the probability that it actually happens? What's the chance that it could be a reality and would be something that we'd want in the first place? Today I want to start the weekend month off with a chat here about the campaign to return to Verdansk for the final stretch of Warzone 1's experience. As we go along, feel free to drop your thoughts. Do you want to see Verdansk return in some capacity? Do you enjoy Caldera in its place? Do you not enjoy Caldera but maybe think that Verdansk returning to that wouldn't be the right move? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. I'd love to hear your take on all of it. But if you enjoyed the video, you find it at all insightful, or you just have some fun with the glimpses of the past through the Verdansk gameplay in the background, do me a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, you'd like to stay up to date with all things Warzone going into the Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 eras here upcoming later this year, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. We're on the road to 500,000 subscribers, so if you'd like to join us on that road, I'd love to have you in the community. And finally, today with the T800 and the T1000 Terminator bundles introduced for the upcoming event, if you guys would like to support the channel a little further, creator code Espresso in the in-game shop is a great yet entirely optional way to do so. Do not ever feel pressured to, but if you do, tweet me a picture. I'd love to shout out some of your generous support in upcoming videos like these legends on screen. For now, let's talk about Verdansk and the potential prospect of its return if it's at all possible. So I guess the first question would be, well, where does this call for Verdansk to return come from? But honestly, where doesn't it come from? I remember the first few days of Caldera, even independent of all the issues that Season 1's launch caused, that so many people were asking immediately, okay, please give us Verdansk back. But now it's more about a homecoming call, something that it seems like, man, wouldn't it be cool to just have this one more time before we jump away into the next generation of Warzone? And that, I think, is incredibly fair. I think that it'd be kind of poetic to start and end in Verdansk, but right now we have no idea what is going to be happening in regards to what Raven plans to send off Warzone. We've got a few months, but with the events of the past, one could maybe assume, or at the very least, hope for one final hurrah, one final send-off event before we launch into Warzone 2 and that next generation. Now, granted, we will still have support for Warzone 1. You'll still be able to play it. It's not like the servers are shutting down or anything like that, but all the main focus, all the main marketing will be then going to Warzone 2 and that next generation here. So it'd be pretty cool to see something end off that Warzone 1 era, that generation, in some grand fashion. For the most part, scouring the internet for what the calls are for it, it seems like players would just love to see it in Season 5 and as a final playthrough. But while it would be awesome to see, poetic, whatever you want to call it, there's quite a few number of hurdles to consider. Not only one, is there nothing really right now in the game files seems to point towards the development of this or the reintroduction of it. I mean, even Fortune's Keep, which had zero mention of it coming officially or that really leaked before the announcement of the map was made, in the game files there were some things pointing to, I think the code name for it was Dragon's Den or something like that, but nothing from leakers that have put out intel on it has indicated that there's anything that makes it seem like Verdansk would be returning. And that's something that usually you'd have to see that stuff added in, at least the very baseline principles of it, months ahead of time. You'd start to see those breadcrumb trails leading up to the full-on reveal. I mean, every single thing that we've seen in Warzone has had something teasing that earlier in the game files by a few months. Going all the way back to the Know Your History event and that reveal event for Black Ops Cold War, that was something that was leaked like months in advance for that, just a couple of months after the launch of Warzone entirely. So to drop an entire map back into the game from one update to the next, Season 4 Reloaded to Season 5, that'd be pretty impressive given prior track records. But then you'd also have to factor in the sizing of the application. From the get-go, Warzone and Modern Warfare 2019 were under heavy fire for criticisms about the sizing of the game or games. I remember one of the big conspiracy theories back in the day was that it was a conscious effort by Activision to make the game so big that Call of Duty was the only thing you'd be able to play on your hard drive for your console of PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, when in reality it was really just the largest undertaking that Call of Duty had really ever seen, and 4K files were not really optimized at that point. Earlier in the year with Season 2 Reloaded, the idea of a map rotation was put forth by a few members of the community, and that got to Raven and then was met with a positive yet negative response. Josh Bridges, creative lead on Chapter 3, explained that they really would like to do that and eventually one day may be able to, but right now, in the current experience that we have, it's just a technical problem. It's not something that is very viable. Further stating that the install and reinstall sizes are absolutely crazy, insane, and that even if they'd pull Caldera out of the rotation at its base, they'd simply have players effectively re-download the entirety of Warzone simply based on how large Verdansk would be to replace it. While you or I may not mind the massive download our bandwidth and speeds may permit it, there's a huge percentage of the population that would not, and that instead would entirely uninstall the game and just not come back ever. Sheer numbers, and that's something that Raven has discussed with creators and press before, that the evidence is there. It's not just some made-up cop-out answer. The drop-off graphs are real. Every single major update like that, you see a large population of players just never come back. So when you have to download 100 gigabytes of data, it just kind of makes it a little unrealistic, as sad as that sounds. But recently, I think it was Ted Timmons in a pre-briefing stated that we'd quite literally exceed storage limits, adding more in on last generation consoles. One thing that has kind of surprised me out of the last few months in these few chats that I've sat in on with Raven Top Brass is just how much of the playing population on Warzone is still on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now, I'm entirely conscious of the scarcity of the supply for next-gen consoles and the scalper rates that go for those that may end up having them, but having been lucky to grab both by now, I hadn't really checked in a while, and seeing that scarcity continue, seeing that it's starting to finally level out, sure, you have to bear in mind that it's almost 2 years now after the launch of those consoles, and they're just now starting to become readily available. Generational shift is always slow as is, but when you have a 2-year delay period of availability, it's no wonder that Warzone 2 is now going to be shifted to support PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, despite the concerns that many may have. The population just is not there yet to go next, or rather current gen exclusive. So when you consider how many players are on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, adding more in, let alone another 70 to 100 gigabytes for Verdansk again, it just kind of seems impossible. So, however, all of that is not to say that I personally would not love to revisit Verdansk one final time. I think that that would be a phenomenal experience. I've said it before, I think that the quality of life changes that we've seen so far in Caldera, things like your redeploy balloons, lootable perks, faster loadout times on those initial drops, the high value loot zones, I think that all of those would take that level of gameplay that we enjoyed from Verdansk and exponentially increase the pacing and fun level. I genuinely would have loved to especially see those redeploy balloons when it came to Verdansk, because, I mean, right when Verdansk was leaving, they were kind of just getting the hang of combating those zones where players would camp on top of rooftops and things like that, with adding in multiple zip lines and other things like that. But imagine you could then just jump in and push a team on a rooftop from a redeploy balloon. No more players just camping on top of rooftops, watching those 1 or 2 entryways of the doors or the zip lines. Instead, they'd have to be conscious of everywhere around them as well. You could make that conscious tactical push and take out a squad on the roof. I'd seriously love to see how Verdansk would play if that were to return. However, to me, the probability is a little bit low. We might touch base on this again sometime soon. I don't want to mash 2 videos in that I had planned up because they're, in their own right, rather deep discussions overall, but I also think that if Verdansk didn't return, I might actually be okay with it, because Verdansk was special for the circumstances in which we were introduced to it with. Verdansk came to us in the entire global gaming scene at a time when all we really had was gaming and other things like that as an outlet to escape the bleak time in our lives at that point. COVID was the perfect storm for Warzone, launching just before everything shut down. It really made a special escape that we'd all remember. I mean, if you think about it, when you look back at 2020, what were you doing whenever you were just inside and in lockdown? For a lot of us, it's probably playing games, playing Warzone in particular. For better or worse, fundamentally, the map had plenty of flaws, but it was our first free-to-play COD offering. It was the first thing that we could play cross-platform for free with everybody that we may be friends with. It was a brand new experience, large-scale combat that we could play in a number of different ways, but it was also our escape to chill with friends over the game or over Discord or party chat, whereas otherwise at that time, we were all secluded, all tied off from the outside world due to the craziness of the global events. In a way, I kind of think that Verdansk and Warzone's success was a projection of what got a lot of people through that uncertainty, and in another way, I think that his reputation could be tarnished by bringing it back. I'll be the first to tell you that there were plenty of rage-inducing moments pre-Caldera that I was just like, okay, just give me the new map already. And honestly, I'd bet a lot of that would still hold up if it came back today. But I think the main fundamental root of wanting to see Verdansk again is to try and relive those good memories, the time where that was the positive outlet in our lives. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that's that's where it then becomes the broader subject of how you felt about Verdansk, how you felt about Warzone, and just the time overall, and where it becomes way more subjective. So at that point, we can't really talk about it on a more, here's what is the facts level, and instead where it kind of turns to you and how you feel about it. So I think that's what we're going to call it. There's been a really big push here to see Verdansk return. I would love to see it return just because, well, I loved it. I had a great time on that map. Did it annoy me at some points? Absolutely. But I think overall it was a net positive. It's just a matter of if Raven somehow makes those secretive moves to bring it back. We'll have to wait and see, but for now, I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think here of this? Would you like to see Verdansk return? Would you not so much? Whatever the case, feel free to let me know. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, Season 4 Reloaded, Season 5 upcoming, Modern Warfare 2, and Warzone 2 upcoming as well. I'd love to have you in the community. That said, thanks so much for watching. Modest Man Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care, and peace.